So here we are at the Trump Hotel covering the vote as it's happening.
Mr. Wallnau. Mr. Hoven. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. Mr. Inhofe. Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Democrat, Mr. Republican.
Mr. King. Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Kyle. Mr. Langford. Mr. Leahy.
You guys hear the demonic manifestations earlier?
Mr. Lee.
Senators had to bring those people in.
Mr. Manchin.
Senators signed them in.
Oh, yeah.
The sergeant at arms will restore order in the gallery.
Well, Trump took West Virginia by 40 points.
The sergeant at arms will restore order in the gallery.
Ooh. Leftist manifesto.
The sergeant at arms will restore order in the gallery.
Cast them out. Several being arrested. So you're not
Clerk,
getting
may
in the gallery.
continue.
You gotta get the, I wanted to be in the
Mr.
gallery
Markey.
today. I couldn't get a seat.
Mrs. McCaskill.
It's not an issue of them getting arrested, it's just there's no real consequences
McConnell.
after they're arrested.
Mr. Menendez. Mr. Merkley. Mr. Moran.
Here it comes.
Ms. Murkowski.
Ms. Markowski's abstaining.
Mr. Murphy.
Not voting.
Mrs. Murray.
Markowski said she'd be present.
Mr. Nelson.
She's canceling out the vote of the Republican guy that wasn't there. For
Mr.
his
Paul.
daughter's wedding.
Mr. Perdue. Mr. Peters. Mr. Portman. Mr. Reed. Mr. Risch.
My God. In America.
Mr. Roberts. Mr. Rounds. Mr. Rubio. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sass.
What he says? Free coffee
Mr.
for everybody in the
Schatz.
balcony.
Mr. Schumer.
Chucky. Lucky Chucky.
Mr. Scott. Mrs. Shaheen.
Now.
Mr. Shelby. Ms. Smith.
Did Mr. Smith go
Ms.
to watch?
Kavanaugh. Mr. Sullivan.
Aye.
Mr. Tester. Mr. Thune.
Here it is.
Mr. Tillis. Mr. Toomey. Mr. Udall.
Oh, beautiful.
Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Warner. Ms. Warren.
Miss Warren.
Mr. Whitehouse.
Parker Hunters.
Mr. Wicker.
Ooh, look at this.
Mr. Wyden.
They're tied.
Mr. Young.
48 to 50. Is there no one else?
With my friend, the senator from Montana, Senator Daines, who is walking his daughter down the aisle this afternoon. If he were present and voting, he would have voted aye. I have voted no. The pair will not change the outcome of the vote. I therefore withdraw my vote.
The senator has that right.
Trying to mitigate the damage to saying no.
Senators voting in the affirmative. Alexander, Barrasso, Blunt, Bozeman, Burr, Capito, Cassidy, Collins, Corker, Cornyn, Cox. Crapo, Cruz, Enzi, Ernst, Fisher, Flake, Gardner, Graham, Grassley, Hatch, Heller, Hovind, Hyde Smith, Inhofe,
This is
Isaacson, Johnson,
the moment.
Kennedy, Kyle, Langford,
They repeat the votes.
Levy, Manchin, McConnell, Moran,
And then it's
Hall,
history.
Perdue, Portman, Rich, Roberts, Rounds, Rubio, Sachs, Scott, Shelby, Sullivan, Thune, Tillis, Toomey, Wicker, Young.
Who makes the announcement?
Senators voting in the negative:
Gosh, we gotta go through all of
Baldwin,
them.
Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, Brown, Cantwell, Carden, Casey, Coons, Cortez Masto, Donnelly, Duckworth, Durbin, Feinstein, Gillibrand, Harris, Hassan, Heinrich, Heitkamp, Hirono, Jones, Kane, King, Klobuchar, Leahy, Markey, McCaskill, Menendez, Merkley, Murray, Nelson, Peters, Reed, Sanders, Schatz, Schumer, Shakeen,
Senator Heimlich
Smith, Stephan,
trying a new maneuver.
Udall, Van Hollen, Warren, Whitehouse, White. Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, no.
This is a Women's for Trump meeting I happen to be at. There it comes. This is probably not happening at the Supreme Court right now. Typical conservatives want to make sure they didn't make a mistake.
They're bringing in the military equipment to come to arrest. They're probably preparing the city for the riots. I got one for
You
you.
know, I gotta go out there on the street and get some live coverage for you guys.
Can we pray? Lord, bless this nation, bless this moment, and thank you for putting us here together to experience this.
Yes,
With our
Lord.
president. Amen. Amen. God bless Donald Trump.
God bless Donald Trump. Thank the Lord Senator Heimlich wasn't able to maneuver out.
It's so appropriate for
Soros has
the Second Amendment right when this is happening.
Yeah.
How about God bless our Bill of Rights and preserve this republic?
Oh, you just heard my wife speak, huh, Kevin? That's so cool. Tell you what, folks, this is really... Oh, it's been intense here in D.C. We were out praying last night at the Supreme Court. And there's so many, like, serious liberals, there's so many, like, they manifest. It's like screaming, yelling, cursing. It's like the Trump rallies. I'm telling you, I haven't seen this much deliverance in public since Wayne Worley, Lester Sumrall. They're meeting down there. What are they doing? They're having something they're doing here. They're having some discussions.
Oh, they have their sound muted?
We need red cups. Beer and red cups.
I know, I'm a bit impatient too.
Although I'd like to do
Because I'm doing the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. Let's everybody get up.
I think the Democrats want to revote. Mike Pence, is he the one going to do it?
Mr. Carper, no.
Mr. Carver. Mr. Carver now. Oh, is there a vote change from maybe 50 to 49? Then Pence has to come along and break the tie. Ooh. This reminds me of sitting up the night of the election, waiting for Podesta and Hillary to announce they didn't win, and Podesta refused.
As a reminder to our guests in the galleries, expressions of approval or disapproval are not permitted in the Senate gallery.
It's not going to stop.
Are there any senators in the chamber who wish to vote or change a vote?
Oh, here it is. Anybody?
If not, on this vote, the ayes are 50, the nays are 48. The nomination of Brett M. Kavanaugh of Maryland to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States is confirmed. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
Well, that was a 2-week cliffhanger. Very happy it came out this way. And like I said, he needed to have a Clarence Thomas moment, and he did. I think Michael Avenatti helped a lot. I think the moment that they started adding in the punch bowl rape groups, they lost credibility, and it allowed the media on our side to start looking at all the allegations and realizing how lacking in credibility they were. Donald Trump helped too with his absolutely offensive rant. But what Trump did was in saying she doesn't know where she was, she doesn't know who took her there, she doesn't know when she got home, she doesn't know when it happened. By hitting the gaps in her testimony, he lampooned what MSNBC and CBS wasn't telling anyone. Typical drive-by Christian and conservative and evangelical suddenly got educated also. There's gaps? Yeah, no kidding. Tremendous gaps. Imagine someone comes against you 36 years ago, you did something, and it's in their memory, and 4 people couldn't confirm it. All right, I gotta go.
Hi, I'm Lance Wallnau, but you already know that. Did you know that you can subscribe, however? You just push that button right there or over there and ding. Now we're connected. Look forward to seeing you soon.